You know the thing about that Order 42 guy? He's always chasing views and trends. Like he's going to review a 29-year-old, rarely seen, Ridley Scott directed coming-of-age film set in 1961. Yeah, let's talk about White Squall. White Squall is the true story of a ship school called the Albatross. The school is run by the captain, Christopher Skipper Sheldon, and his wife, Dr. Alice Sheldon. In the year of 1960, the couple took aboard 8 teenage boys from around the country for 8 months of learning how to sail, be a crew, and respect one another. The crew goes through hard times and more laid-back times, but they must come together when a freak storm gets them in trouble in the middle of the ocean. Now, if somehow you're new to this channel and you're watching this review, well, I do the Ridley Scott Review-a-thon. It's a series of reviews basically covering every movie that Ridley Scott has ever directed because I'm a huge fan of Ridley Scott. And this is actually one of the few Ridley Scott movies that I'd never seen before. And apparently, he decided to make this movie because he was going to make a film about a contagion and based on Ebola. And I guess because of other competing studios producing similar movies, he decided to do this after it was canceled. White Squall, I mean, it feels like a throwback, the kind of movie that they just don't make anymore at this level. There's a really cool feeling too when you're watching it. It's like, wow, a lot of this is done for real. I mean, this is practical effects at its best, production design at its best. I mean, it looks fantastic, and it feels like you're there. And, you know, sure, there are scenes that were filmed in a tank because, you know, danger. But I gotta say, it was really, really impressive. The acting across the board, uniformly excellent. But, I mean, it's really Jeff Bridges, man. He is absolutely perfectly cast here because he just exudes that no-nonsense kind of behavior, but with a story, you know, behind him. Now, we don't get a whole lot of that story, but I gotta say, he really drives this film, and I really enjoyed his performance, as I do pretty much any time he's on screen in any genre of film. He just brings it, and look, Jeff Bridges is awesome. This movie also features a lot of up-and-coming actors for the time, right? You got Scott Wolf and Ryan Phillippe and Jeremy Sisto and Ethan Embry. And look, I think all of them did a good job. I don't think any of them really blew me away, but here's the thing. Their characters are supposed to be like, you know, 16, 17 years old, and yeah, they were all much older. And in fact, I think Ethan Embry was the closest. I think he was like 17 or 18. So I think he was pretty close, but everybody else is way older. 22, you know, in the case of Scott Wolf, he was 27 when he made this movie. So yeah, little strange for that. But like many movies with a large cast of characters, you've got, you know, everybody's got their quirks, you know, one guy's, you know, afraid of heights, and one guy is, you know, he's trying to cheat his way, you know, to the top. And I mean, there's the rich kid, you know, it's, you know, all of those familiar tropes are kind of here. As I said, this is not a movie that was on my radar at all back in the day, 96, when this movie came out. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, but as I'm watching it, I'm going, wow, this is actually a pretty solid coming of age type story. And in fact, Variety said in their review that it was basically Dead Poet Society on water. So, I mean, yeah, I can see that, but I was actually really kind of enjoying it. And it's, you know, it doesn't have your typical 3-act structure, you know, where, you know, you got your introduction, you got your problem, and then you got your resolution. It's not really like that. You're kind of on the journey with these guys. And it, you know, as I settled into it, I was actually, like I said, I was having a good time with it. You know, typically with Ridley Scott movies, it's more about the feel of the world and the plot. The characters, in a lot of cases, they tend to get the short end of the stick. But I was actually really impressed with the depth of characters that we did get here. I was actually really, really enjoying it. And he's been criticized for that. You know, I mean, it's like he's more about, it's more about flash more than substance. And I mean, I can understand that, but I mean, production design and everything is his background, right? You know, that's where he came from. So I get that. But I was actually really pleased with what we got here. Now, this had a $38 million budget when it was filmed. And, when you're looking at inflation, you're looking at around 78 million. This is not the kind of movie that would be greenlit today. I mean, I just don't see it happening. I mean, this is the kind of story that they'd probably say, well, let's do a straight to streaming or maybe even a short little mini series or something like that. They would not spend almost $80 million on a movie like this. And here's the thing, 38 million, they only brought in 10.2 million worldwide. So it's not exactly, it wasn't exactly lighting up the box office. But you also have to think that this is, pre-DVD, when this movie came out. So I would think that the rental market probably helped and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of these sort of mid-budget movies did actually turn a profit when it came to movie rentals. But like I said, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how to track that. I don't think there's any information on that on the internet. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a movie that was on my radar, so I don't know. Now, this might be weird to say, hey, spoiler alert for a 29-year-old movie, but in case you're interested in seeing the movie, I would say, yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. But I do want to talk about the ending, because I feel like that's where this movie is really kind of let down. And the reason is, well, okay, so they get into a storm toward the end, right? The boat capsizes and people die, right? And so the aftermath is that there's sort of a tribunal held, and, you're wondering, okay, is he going to be held liable for these deaths and all this stuff? And it's this big kind of like, it's almost meant to warrant this sort of like courtroom drama and all this stuff. And the problem is, he just basically says, yeah, I'm going to be held liable. And he starts to walk out, and the kids are like, no, you're the man. And we're a crew and all this stuff. And they hug, and then it's over. That's it. I mean, that's basically it. So you're like, what's the resolution? Looking up the true story, he wasn't charged for any sort of thing. I don't know if there was actually a tribunal. But in the case of something like this, where there's this freak of nature, occurrence, how could anybody be held liable for that? It's a strange thing. So I feel like there was more to the story that we didn't get in the movie, and I don't even know if it was necessary, but it still felt, the movie ended and I was kind of like, huh, okay. I've kind of had this theory of watching Ridley Scott movies where it seems like he chooses what he wants to do based off a specific scene that he wants to be, challenged on, right? It's like, ooh, I want to shoot that, right? And for me, it's got to be the wreckage, right? At the end, right? The storm and all that kind of stuff. He wanted to shoot that and see, what he could bring to it. And it really was a pretty thrilling scene, the way it was directed, the way that you kind of had an idea of where everybody was and all that stuff. I mean, it was really well directed. But I also feel like that's not enough, and in some Ridley Scott movies, it feels like all the energy was put into that one scene and the rest of it suffered. I don't think that this movie suffers for that, because like I said, I didn't really, it wasn't in my head that this, that there was going to be a big storm. I was just enjoying the journey along the way. And I feel like the movie was pretty good for that. But again, it's more about the journey and not the destination, because like I said, that ending was a little, So overall, I would say that this is sort of an upper mid kind of level Ridley movie. I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I don't have any real big issues with the movie, as a whole. And yeah, I'd say it's probably worth watching. The problem is, at least with this version of the Blu-ray, your bonus feature is a trailer in like standard definition, and it looks bad. So you're not gonna get a lot of special features on this. I was kind of hoping for a commentary or a making of featurette or something, but no, we don't get it on this movie, and it's probably because of the low box office. But I mean, look, I got it for $4.99. I'd have to say that was a pretty good deal for me. So, White Squall. I know it's not the movie that you first think of when you think of Ridley Scott, but I'd like to know if you've seen it. What did you think of it? I mean, did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? let's talk about it in the comment section. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.